Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live space today. I'm Mariquita Solis, your Uncaged Heart coach. So, whether you're joining us live today or catching this on the replay, I'm very grateful to have your presence and energy here with us. So, as you know, this show is every week at 2:30. I think next week, though, or sometimes 2:45. So make sure you check. So today we're tackling a topic that hits home for almost every single man: the relentless pressure from society to show up exactly as society demands. So from a young age, men are handed a rigid script. They're told how to act, how to define success, and how to handle the pressure. And above all, they have to do it completely alone, right? The independent man. But what happens when that script starts to feel like a cage? So, to help us dive into this, I'm excited to welcome my phenomenal guest who has lived on both sides of this equation, Lee Huffman, otherwise known as Huff. Huff knows the corporate and entrepreneurial pressure cooker inside and out. He launched and sold 7 successful startups and led major tech operations inside Hewlett Packard. But he also chose to redefine what his life looked like, becoming a licensed spiritual counselor, traveling solo across the globe, walking the 500-mile Camino de Santiago, and dedicating himself to men's work with MDI and the Unity North Atlanta Men's Group. Huff understands firsthand the pressure of trying to meet society's endless demands and the incredible freedom that comes when a man stops trying to do it all alone and steps into his true, authentic self. So thanks for joining me, Huff. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, let's start out with, I'd love to know about your childhood. What was it like? Did you have really some strong role models in your mother and father? And what did you believe being a man looked like?
Well, I grew up in the Midwest up in Indiana, and mom and dad were both entrepreneurs. As a matter of fact, serial entrepreneurs. Mom had 3 real estate companies at the same time: a commercial, a residential, and a property management company. And then dad had the other side. He was in contract work. He had a commercial construction company, a remodeling company that he owned and was run by an uncle, and then a property development company that did a lot of work there. So mom and dad were pretty busy, but they always made time for us. I remember going camping on weekends at the lake, and the lake was more like a little pond, a mud puddle, but it was good. And I remember spending time with my 2 older brothers and my older sister, and it was just it was good. That's how I felt like life should be. And we all took care of each other. But mom especially had in the real estate business, you work evenings and weekends, and that meant a lot. And so we learned how to cook early, and we learned how to take care of ourselves. Um, and then dad was a former Navy corpsman assigned to the Marines during Korea, and it was interesting. He was always there for us, and he was especially there for me. And as the youngest one, my siblings were the 3 of them were a total of 2 years apart from the top to bottom, and then I was 3 years later. So, but I started at actually I was with mom and dad um, at a restaurant that they owned, and it was my birthday, my 13th birthday, and there was a balcony up above that people would go up and they'd sort of rattle the door to try and get out and get on the balcony. And I joked, we should put something up there to sell something to somebody. And my mom said, yes, you should. And so about 3 weeks later, I started my first business. And I was 13, and it was a top hat gift and candle shop. And I had some amazing ladies that ran it for me. And when I messed up as a kid, or as a manager, owner, they would tell me what I did and what to do better about it. And so I sold that business just before I turned 16. And mom and dad had sold the restaurant long before that. And I made 10 times what I had invested in it, and I got bit by the entrepreneur bug. And so my thought was, I'll just keep building businesses. And that's what I did. As a result, it took me 14 years to get my bachelor's degree, but I did that too because I told mom I would. So, but
That's
it's been a very interesting ride.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, you sold your first business at age 16. And by 40, you had launched and sold seven startups, right? And led massive operations at HP, Hewlett Packard, right?
Yes.
From the outside, you were the ultimate picture of societal success, right? And so at that time, what did you believe society demanded of you as a man? And when did those demands start to maybe feel like a trap or just maybe a pressure cooker? You tell me.
Yeah, it was, there were a lot of times when there were things happening. I couldn't have done any of that without a team around me. And I always had good relationships with my team. That's something my parents taught me. But it was still, there were times where I had an assistant and a CPA that ran off with about $260 million, or $260,000, not that much, uh, uh, like my fourth business. And they ran off with the money, and I could not figure out how to pay payroll. I didn't have the money to do it. And it was a software team. And I called my parents, and they put money in, and we paid it back over time. And but there's always, no matter where you're at in the business, there's always a mask that you have to put on. And so I had to put on a mask all the time that things were good, even during that chaotic time. And that it was okay, I had it under control. And if my parents not been there, I don't know what I would have done. And I was 22 at the time, and I really needed them, and they were there for me. Then throughout life, within the churches that I've attended, I've had people around me that have been strong men and women that have advised me very well. And so it's important to listen to that advice and to seek it out. And you mentioned MDI, Mentor, Discover, Inspire. Um, I've been in MDI since 2019, and it has been an amazing organization where men come together and take their mask off and support each other. And we know that we know what everybody knows, which is we all have our flaws. And if we find that if we talk about them, then they get resolved a lot easier. And sometimes we don't always take the advice of our friends, but um, it's it's amazing that they are there for each other. And I also coach other entrepreneurs and business owners and dealing with them, and it's the same way. We've got to let down our guard to really move forward and to really grow. So I love the idea of uncaged leaders.
Yeah, it can be a very heavy cage. And as a female, I used to live in that prison as well, twisting myself for men and for society. And I feel very free today. Thankfully, I am who I am. And it's interesting that the dynamic that we are put in where women are, I mean, it's looked at as objects. Just the other day, yesterday, I was watching uh, YouTube and I saw a man just saying, well, women are submissive. I mean, without any issue saying it, right? The lower
Yeah,
ones, the submissive ones. And I thought, what kind of society are we living in? And no wonder it's so hard for young men. I mean, they're struggling when they're taught women are submissive, which many young men are taught. Then how in the professional world would you relate to women when you see them as submissive? And then they might be your boss or your mentor, but if you're taught they're submissive, something isn't syncing there. I mean, what happens if you're in that dynamic? And how can young men respect someone that's submissive and lower?
yeah. Well, I guess from the beginning, my mother was not that dismissive. She and my dad had an amazing relationship, and so I was blessed there. But at the same time, I understand what you're saying because I see that with men in MDI, men at church, and where you have expectations that there's a difference in levels, and there's really not. I've worked for some amazing women, especially at Hewlett Packard, and I've coached some amazing women that are really strong business and personal leaders and are also still feminine. And so we need the feminine, the divine feminine and the divine masculine to work together in our lives, and we need to respect both.
That's very interesting that you said that are still feminine because many women feel like the only way that they can get to the top is to be like a man. And now, yes, I've talked to corporate women who said that other women wouldn't help them get to the top. The only way that they could get to the top was if a man stood by them, right? And then I went to a private girls' school, and our brightest young women from the class were working for presidential, I mean, presidents, right? And then they were being asked to serve coffee. So we've
Yeah.
got this, it's, uh, it's hard to wrap your head around. And how can we tackle this? I mean, what would you say to a young man that has already been brought up in this belief of women being submissive and not as intelligent and as sexual beings, objects for them to exploit? I mean, what would you say to a young man who, is laughing and saying, I mean, God knows what about women?
Yeah, I would. I guess where I'm at is I start everything with a question and say, where did you get that, and how do you see that? There are some extremely powerful women that I've worked with and that I trust, and the I also worked with an organization, a national organization that I won't mention their name, but they're within the organization when I started working with them, they had a lot of women. It was a restaurant organization, and the highest position that a woman could get to in the organization back when I started working with them in 2006 was a bartender. There were no managers, and
Huh.
we did. I was connected with an international team, and we did a secret shopper program in over 300 stores. And fast forward to 2022, I was coaching the leadership team of that organization. And there were a lot of things that came out, a lot of dysfunctional stuff that was going on in the company because they treated their best people the wrong way. and but I was training the leadership team again, and I was out in Nevada training the group, and they at that time the CEO was a woman, the COO was a woman, and the organization was run by a very balanced organization of men and women. So I've seen a lot of changes happen, but it's still there. Uh, and it's still a concern. And I just see that the cards have been stacked against women, and we need to not do anything to. We need to unstack them, and then we need to support everybody as equals as they come up and as they're doing things, and we need to recognize, when people are doing that, and we need to recognize when people aren't, and we need to call them out. And so I see no proof that there's any um, difference, well, any negative difference in the mental capacity, the management capacity, the um, uh, organizational capacity. If anything, women are better organizers and can think through things better than what men can with the stresses that we have on men. And so that's another thing that men need to do. We need to let down our guard. We need to relax a bit. And as you get older, I'm looking over the edge of seeing 70 here soon. And the mentors that I've had in my life in business have been amazing uh, people, and their wives and the women in their organizations have been amazing. So at Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard had great people in their organization, male and female. John Maxwell, his wife, he has some interesting things about how he relates to women just to protect himself, to make sure that there's no problems. He would not be any alone with any woman, um,
Mm.
and it would not be him and another man with a woman. It would be him and two other women, or something like that. And that's just because he was a minister and a strong influencer, the largest influencer in leadership in the world. And I know a senior minister here in Atlanta that is the same way, at a very large church. And so you do have to be careful of perceptions, but you also have to recognize that maybe our upbringing, maybe our subconscious mind is causing us to evaluate people in a way that is not correct. And it really is the subconscious mind. People say, how can prejudice continue? Whether it be with minorities or with women, or with people from other countries or wherever it may be. And if you look at the fact that our subconscious mind develops um, over 7 years without a conscious mind to keep it in line, and it just absorbs everything, then what's said by our parents and our grandparents and the people we hang out around and things like that become part of our operating system. And we really have to think about it and be conscious of the fact that our subconscious may be leading us down the wrong path. So I may be getting into some things that you don't want to here, but
No, it's all good. Yeah.
it's quite amazing. Yes. And I find that, the conscious mind is actually a pretty slow thing. And the subconscious mind runs 95% of what we do. You don't think about your breathing, you don't think about your you don't think about thinking. And so when it's going, some people say 200,000 times faster than the conscious mind, and some people say 200 million times faster than the conscious mind. But it's definitely faster, and it's definitely in the background influencing everything that we think. So we have to get into core values
Oh,
to examine and understand that, and realize that we have masks on and that those masks don't really serve us. And when I see men take those masks off, and when I take my mask off, I wear them too. And when I see men take those masks off and women take their mask off, and we start connecting as people, as peers, then life gets so much better. And people stumble because we're not used to doing that. And but it's so much freer. Um, and as men, we get called on it, and we do something, we say something, and somebody's cutting up and saying things about women that are not correct, or other people that are not correct. And if you call them out, then you're now, you're in the minority. And but it's respected by others, and I'm seeing a change. And I've seen a change. It's been slow, but over the past 30 years, 40 years, we've gotten better, but we still have a long way to go. So,
yeah. I think we've gotten better too. And so what does affect this subconscious program that we're not aware of, all of us, like women being afraid of men and men, let's say, thinking that some men thinking they're dominant over women, right? I mean, what does this do to the human relationship? Now, when I'm asking, I'm not focusing on romance. I mean, because
Yeah.
romance and all relationships are the same. You can't wear a mask if you want to develop an authentic relationship. So, what is this doing when we're seeing this power over dynamic instead of power with to our relationships? I mean, let's just talk about a friendship relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very true. The In a friendship relationship or even a romantic relationship, there have to be open discussions. And you see someone and you're talking to them, and you're you have to have also another discussion going on in the back of their mind. You need to be an observer of yourself. At least, no, let me rephrase that. I need to be an observer of myself. And so when I am an observer of myself, I can catch myself, and I can look and say, was that really fair to that person? And that can be anybody that's different from me. It may be somebody who's never been in a leadership role. You know, that's okay. They've chosen that. And it's all these things that we have preconceived notions about that can really get us into trouble. And so um, I think that's what Socrates meant when he said an unexamined life is not worth living. You
Oh,
have to examine your life. And usually we look at that and say, yeah, I need to look at my life, but you also need to look at your thoughts and what's driving your thoughts. And if somebody pulls in front of you in the driving down the road and they end up being different from you, do you have different thoughts? Or do you remember the time that you pulled in front of somebody down the road? and and it's people say take off your mask. I'd say why don't we just loosen the mask a little, because it doesn't come all the way off. It takes time to get it all the way off. And I've been doing men's work. I've been doing leadership work since well before probably 1990, and even before that as a manager, um, and as an owner of companies. But I've been doing a lot of strong men's work one on one since about 2007, and I still catch myself. I still see that. Wait a minute, I've had this person is not qualified or whatever. And then I watch when they open up their mouth and they are, and they are doing really good stuff. And I have a joy for them, and I have a joy for
mm,
myself for recognizing them. So
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And when we're talking about leadership, there's a lot of young men, not just young men, but I mean, unfortunately, the word failure or being seen as a failure or failing at all, sometimes, I mean, we have high rates of suicide because of this mask in young men. And if something goes wrong, failure is not seen as a stepping stone, but and acknowledging feelings comes with that. The feelings with failure and shame, all these are intertwined, and it's causing young men to really be alone and afraid and not express that to others. And what can be done with this concept of letting go of this idea of perfection and independence and you can never fail, that's destroying young men's, I mean, their soul.
yes, I see that, and it is. I was taught to push myself. I started to say I was pushed at a young age. I wasn't. I was taught to push myself at a young age. And back in high school sports, I was wrestling and uh, cross country and track for a while until my knees got bad, and chess champion. And I pushed myself, but I always set a higher goal for myself rather than trying to beat somebody else. And that was something that came from my parents and also came from my church upbringing. Um, and there were some things that may not have been as positive in the church upbringing, but um, I was lucky to have people around me that would question my actions and question them for me and help me question my actions. And I guess I say that because people need to be open to other people questioning them and realize that sometimes it comes across as a challenge, but people just don't know how to say it, and that it's really well meaning. And so being open to things that other people are saying, male and female. And then how do we really embrace the fact that we are not perfect and it's okay not to be perfect? And that failure, um, if I had a fear of failure that I see in some people out there, people that I work with and people that you work with, especially, that if they had if I had that level of fear of failure, I would not have retired when I was 40 years old, and I would not be working a TWT business, as I say, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I couldn't do that if I hadn't taken the risk, had not if I hadn't fallen down and got myself up and said, "What's the lesson I can learn here?" And that came from my grandparents, it came from my parents, it came from the people around me, and I think I know that I want to be that for the people around me. So
I love that. Yes. Yes, I mean, you're very well-rounded and self-aware, and that is so important for us to be able to look at ourselves without judgment and that idea of letting go of perfection, but moving forward. And also what you said about not comparing yourself to others, but moving forward, dependent on where you were yesterday. So that's crucial. And how do we how do we get past this idea that young men can only show feelings of anger, right? Lust, these are okay in society, whereas softness or I mean, even the word feminine was equated to weakness in the 70s. So, right, and being like a girl, and just like I heard yesterday, that right, a woman is right? Being like a
yeah,
woman, you don't want to be like a woman at all costs. So what does that mean?
yeah,
Domination, right? This,
right.
how, I mean, how can young men, how can they express emotions if they've been taught their whole life that this is like a girl, like a sissy, right? Weak.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that continues and continues. I've traveled all over. I've lived all over the country, and I've traveled all over the world, and I see it um, just driven home that that these people are different than me. I don't care if it's male, female, or um, my black friend over here or my gay friend over here. It's all the fact that we're all um, equal and we have something to offer. And when we start recognizing that as a leader, I see that it comes out. And as a friend, I see that people just blossom when you recognize what they can do and you recognize that they may be a little bit concerned about how they come across, which is a good thing, as long as it's not self deprecating and from a standpoint of making them feel bad about themselves, making them, some people, like you said, get to suicide. And I had a good friend that committed suicide 3 years ago. And I hadn't spoken to that person for almost 2 years. We just hadn't connected. And it was a surprise that they were walking alone. So that's the other side is don't walk alone. What is it, the 988 number? If you're thinking about suicide, we should put that out there. If there are people there to help, and so I just got off on a tangent, but that hit home thinking about what she did. The We are all here to learn, and we're all here to get better. And when we miss the mark, then we need to look and say, what's the way to correct it? And I think we miss a mark a lot when we underestimate the people around us. And go ahead. underestimate my daughter. Underestimate my son. He's a Marine, and he is very strong, and he's medically retired from the Marine Corps. But don't underestimate him. Don't underestimate his wife. He just got married recently. Don't underestimate her. She's amazing. And my daughter and her fiance are just amazing young people, which is another way that we put prejudice on people. They may not be able to keep up with those of us that have been around business for a long time, but I can't keep up with them out on the running track or on the dance floor. But we can all have fun together, and we can all learn from each other.
Amen to that. Yes. And I've had some several friends that were, I mean, they're really in their professions or sports areas of sports, and then they have injuries and they don't know who they are. They say, I'm lost now, and they really go into a depression. So what would you say to that person that equated that that sport as, or that like a friend of mine, she can't walk anymore. And so she was like, she's a big activist. So she's doing the best she can, but she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Right? That loss of persona. So could you speak a little bit about that?
Oh, I had a real good friend in high school that at 22, he got up out of a hot tub and had been drinking wine or beer or something, and went over to the pool and went off the diving board and slipped and came back quadriplegic. And he was major in the marching band and in a band with his hands and everything, and he was just beautiful. He had a great voice, and luckily his voice remained. But he just passed away 2 years ago, and so he spent over 40 years um, um, being an amazing person from the wheelchair that he was in. He ran two companies. He took over his dad's company, which was a major tractor trailer type um, distribution company. And then he had his own business that the man could find anything in the world, even before the internet was very big at all. And I had a need for a 100-foot flagpole, and a client told me that they would work with me if I could find them a 100-foot flagpole. And I called him, and he found it in 3 days, and it was shipping in 6. And but Dale was one of the strongest people and a huge um, motivator, influencer, example to me. And so look at that. Look at what you can come through. And there are people that have done it all over again. And we are living longer. And with what's going on with AI and quantum computing, don't get me started, is is going to extend our lives even further. And the Cleveland Clinic and what's going on with IBM up there, there's just um, we need to learn how to recreate ourselves, even if we don't have a catastrophic accident. You know, we're gonna
Right.
have to we're gonna have to recreate ourselves anyhow. So, and how do you do that? I've also seen people the same way, men who have lost a job and gone into a depression, or have lost a marriage and gone into a deep depression, and just given up, rather than taking and saying it's an opportunity to do something new, to find something new, and to reach out to people for support. You're not weak if you reach out for support. I think if there's one message I would like people to get from this discussion, is that a man or a woman who reaches out for support is stronger than one who tries to fight it through them on their own. So it's very important. And I've reached out for a lot of support. And if it wasn't for the mentors and the people that have helped me through life, um, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And helping the people that I'm helping now. So
Right.
yeah.
We all need each other. Amen to that. I mean, first of all, we're all interconnected. And there's not one, people will say, I don't need anybody or I'm independent. And they love saying that. I'll say, look, if you're living out in the woods and you don't ever have any interaction with anyone else, then I will say, I'll acknowledge you're independent. But and unless you're out there doing everything by your own, you're not, because my gosh, look, I mean, we're on this computer right now, talking back and forth. So, I mean, all the hands that put together the computer and the microphone that I'm using and all of it is just so many people. And so when we really look at life, that we could never make it on our own. And who would want to make it? We're so brainwashed into thinking that this hyper independence is something to be celebrated, when if we would get back to this acknowledging that we thrive with each other, then we will all actually we would have so much better planet to live on when we're working together instead of this society of consumption. It seems like we're in it's this, like, what can I get? What can I get? What can I get all the time, instead of this life of service? How can I serve? If we made a switch to that, our world would really change. I feel like here I am on a rant now. This was my morning rant. But yeah, we all need each other. And so, well, and when we feel like we don't have a purpose. So like when you retired in 1999, what went on there? What did you feel like? I mean, inside, I mean, what was going on?
Um, it was a surprise because I got an offer on a company. We were building one company with the intention of selling it, and we sold it to another company that's very large now. They were unknown at the time, and then this other company we were building. We were living down in Silicon Valley. There were a group of four of us primarily, but we had about 250 people around the world. But we were going to move the headquarters to Atlanta, and a large technology company made us an offer that we couldn't refuse. And so we did move back to Atlanta. I moved back here. I was with the family. I started playing golf with, I'm 40 and I'm playing golf with people that are 60 and almost 70, like I am now, and they were old. And 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 I was tired of that. Georgia heat is not my thing to play golf in, and I wasn't really feeling like I was making a contribution. And my wife at the time said, you really need to get out of the house. She had a job where she worked out of the house. She still worked for Hewlett Packard. And she said, you really need to get out of the house and go do something. I don't care what. And she was right. She saw that in me. And I took her advice and I took her wisdom. And I started moving out and saying, what can I do? I can teach people what I've learned. And then I bought into a franchise that helped. I contributed a lot to that franchise, and they contributed a lot to me. And then I left that and started building my own practices, helping leaders. And now I'm involved with people all over this country, all over North America. And I had a call today from a friend of mine. I'll put a pitch in for England today in the World Cup. And he called me and said, England's playing. He's lives in the UK. We are partners in a business together. And he said, we have to get together and have another coaching session. And when he says that, I know that it's not me coaching him and it's not him coaching me. It's both.
Mm.
And so you have that relationship. Women to women have a tendency to have that relationship, although I see it not being as strong as what it used to be. I saw my mom and Betty Sullivan being so close that you couldn't separate them, and I see that in some women today, but some women are also independent, and it's not healthy. We are not meant to be standalone. We are not meant to live on an island alone, and we cannot reach our full potential. I could not have created any of the companies that I had created or the divisions at HP if I had not had a great team around me. And especially the last, I couldn't have done it with any of them, but the last six divisions and companies, they were amazing people. and uh, and they still are. One of them just took over, moved to the head of a very large division of a technology company that division is located here in Atlanta. And he was the guy with the idea of the company that we moved to Atlanta and ended up selling to the company that he still works for, you know. And so he was also a Navy SEAL and an NSA agent and a bunch of other things. And he's amazing because he had those opportunities. And so,
Mm,
how do we give others opportunities? I want to talk to the people out there that are in leadership roles and in things. How do we find somebody to mentor and to share ideas with? I have a mentor that I found out last week. I'm I'm 67, and I found out last week that my one of my mentors' dads is 41. His dad is 41, and he said,
uh-huh.
my dad's old enough to be your son, and so I could be your grandson. How can I possibly mentor you? How could I possibly do this?" And every week we talk as part of MDI, and we talk one on one on the phone, maybe for 15, 20 minutes. And I said, just listen and ask questions. And how do you find that person in your life or those 5 people in your life that you can listen to and ask questions and reflect back to them what they're saying? That's all it takes, you know. So it's beautiful when they connect. And I guess my first experience of really doing that in business was at Purdue University. I was encouraged to take on a role in the computer labs, and um, I was doing assembler and Fortran and technical technology software, and there was a lot of business software people around. But I was asked to be a mentor, a TA type person in the evenings and like the middle of the night. And I said, "What happens if somebody comes to me with a COBOL or Pascal question?" And the person that was encouraging me to do it said, "Ask them how they created the problem. Ask them if they wanted to create the problem, what would they do?" And by doing that, people reverse engineer, what would I do if I really wanted this to come out instead of that? And they find the problem. And I had no idea what the programming languages they were in, but I could help them. And so that's what I said to this young man was, "You're helping me." And right before this meeting, I sent him a message saying that he's holding me accountable for something. And I I sent it to him, and he's a great contributor to my life. So and I hope he knows that. Um,
Oh, that's amazing. Yes, when we recognize others and we don't look at people through the lens of age. I mean, because we all are learning. Like, look at the little children who are so free and they'll say whatever they want to, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's amazing. Yeah. So let's talk about MDI. So what does MDI stand for again?
it's mentor, discover, inspire, and those are 3 large goals for us to have for each other. As that we can mentor other men, discover things with them and within ourselves, and inspire men to be the best that they can be. And there's probably 600 men worldwide now, maybe 700 that are part of the organization, and there's other great men's groups out there that are like MDI, and some of them spun off of MDI. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, we have about 70 men, and so there's average team is about 9 men in a team. When they get up to 12, they encourage we break it, split it into separate teams, because in a group of 12 you can hide out,
Ah,
and uh, in a group of 10 it's a little bit harder to hide out. And we don't want to hide out. We want to help each other. We want to support each other. The men meet weekly. And that's a lot of time to commit to each other, but it's worth it. We meet one night a week, and typically it's from 7:30 to 10:30, and typically it's around a fire, even when it's on a hot night in Georgia. And we go through a certain process of doing some physical activity to get ourselves out of our heads.
Hmm.
We talk about confidentiality. We talk about clearing things that might get in the way of the meeting. And then we ask men what's going on in their lives. And do they want to just spew something? Because sometimes you just got to get it out. Or do they want to say something and then get some advice from other men? And the rule is you only give advice if you've actually had that situation in your life or you've been specifically trained to help people in that situation. And so that keeps you from saying, my cousin over here had this. We speak from I statements, which is where I caught myself earlier in this call. And then the man has a choice of, do they make a commitment to change something or to do something different or to take some activity? And then maybe we all have issues at home. We all have issues at the job. We may have issues keeping our physical body intact. We may have concerns that we just need to talk about and realize they're not really concerns at all. But if the men are wearing masks, then it doesn't work. And so, and that's why meeting every week is so important. And we meet once a month as a division. So there are 6 teams here in Atlanta that come together. And it gets a little bit rowdy, but it's it's good. And then
Right.
the same way with the Unity North men's group. That group is they only meet once a month, but I think we had, let's see, last Saturday we meet on Saturday morning for about 3 hours and once a month, and I think that we probably had 45 men there last Saturday, and it was good. There was a teach. One of the leaders got up and taught us or helped us, led us through a process of examining ourselves. And it was very important. Larry did an excellent job with that. And then we came back together and we had passed a box around earlier and everybody wrote their name and phone number on it and on a piece of paper and put it in there. And then we passed it around again and everybody pulled out a name. So this month, I'm going to have 2 calls with people from Unity North Atlanta, men from there. And I know that there are MDI men in Canada that if my car broke down and I couldn't get any other help, I could look on my phone, I could find their number. I may have never met them, but they're going to be there for me. And because we've been through a common struggle together.
Mm.
And there's a phrase in Kazakhstan that is called Joldash, JOHLDAS, I think. And it is the bond that is formed by going through a common struggle.
Oh,
And you have to expose yourself to going through a common struggle with someone. And you create a bond that's going to be there forever. And I know men that I worked with and women that I worked with back in Yorktown, Indiana, with my first 2 companies, that if they called me, I'd be there for them. I'd drop whatever. And if their name came up here, I'd call them right back after this call. And
mm.
so that's the connection that you have with people if you really become authentic with them and really be who you are and let them be who they are.
Yeah,
Rather,
it's something different. And my gosh, it's night and day when you
it is.
open up to who you are. It's something you can't even explain to. I've tried to explain it to some people and they can't understand it because they've never had that because they've never opened up. And so I might as well be talking to a wall, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And I would like to think that most people have this, but I have it with a lot of people that we haven't connected for a long time, and they call me up and we connect, and the conversation keeps right on going. And I posted something on social media saying that I was doing a Camino next month. I'm going to do
Uh-huh.
the Portuguese coastal Camino from Porto, Portugal, up to Santiago. It's about 165, 170 miles, and so I'm getting all kinds of calls from people who saw that, had met me on the Camino de Santiago from France that I did
Wow.
in 22, and there's over 100 people in a media group that I met along the way that we connected, and we have that common bond. And there were times on the Camino when you're doing a 500-mile walk. There's times when you're going through a common struggle with someone. it, it may be sleeping in a hostel, and the common struggle is the guy next to you is snoring really loud.
But that's a real struggle. Yeah,
It
definitely.
is a
I
real
was,
struggle. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's great. I've enjoyed this. This is good talk. So, yeah.
yeah. Well, tell me about just tell me about what would you say transformation is? I mean, and how did that play into the Camino? Is that an example of transformation? You know?
Yeah, there were lots of transformations on the Camino. I was told by a man who had been he went on his first Camino right after he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and given 6 months to live. And he went, and when he got off the train in Saint Jean Pied de Port, France, there was a man there who said, you could tell he was a pilgrim, he was a traveler, he was a hiker because he had his backpack and all this. And the person standing there, this old man, told him, leave all your expectations on the train. Don't limit the Camino. So don't limit life. And so he just, in September, he did his 8th Camino. He does it
Wow.
every 2 years. So he's now 15 years into his 6 year judgment against him, or 6 months judgment that he wasn't going to live for more than 6 months. And he's completely clean of cancer. And so
Oh,
you look at that transformation that he made and his wife made and all this because they thought he was going to be gone. Transformation is about looking within and seeing where you've missed the mark. And it's like an archery situation where you've missed the mark and you've got someone over here looking at it from the outside. It may be you, it may be a friend, and they're saying, you need to go 2 inches to the right. That's a transformation, just making that difference. How do we look at ourselves and see that we need to shoot 2 inches to the right? And how do we really examine that in our lives? And the answer is just do it. Start looking at it. I've found that I'm jotting a lot of things down. I never had to do that. But in my phone, I keep notes, journal. And that's a very important part of my life. And now I'm using things like ChatGPT and Claude and high technology to help with things. And it's fascinating. And if I had stayed where I was and not gotten into some of these things that looked really scary, like artificial intelligence, then I'm afraid that I would wither away. And so keep growing, keep listening to people, keep supporting each other.
yeah. Amen to that, y'all. And everybody watching, please subscribe. And so I would like to just know, where can people get a hold of you? And then I'd like tell us where we can get a hold of you, and just tell us what you want your legacy to be.
Okay. Um, um, you can go to my website at it's not Professional Development USA. That's too much to type in. So it's PRODEVUSA.com. And you can also connect with me on social media. I am known as the Business Catalyst on LinkedIn. And so you can go to the Business Catalyst, or you can look up Lee Huffman. And I'm also on Facebook, but LinkedIn is where I do my business and my connecting. Um, I don't know a lot of people that are on my Facebook. Got a lot of followers, and people follow me because of the Camino and because of the personal stuff
Oh,
that I do. So, and if you want to see that, um, then you can follow me there. But I do accept anybody who wants to be associated with me through social media, I accept that. And we all have to prove that we don't belong in my life. And so I have blocked people. So I do that if need be. Um, and you can also find me at Unity North Atlanta. Uh,
Yep.
so it's a great place to get together with people. So
Right. And what's the legacy? What do you want your legacy to be?
I
I
want
know you're
people to,
creating it.
yeah. Um, well, there's a lot of things that have been created because I've sold businesses and I've been able to um, use that money wisely, give that money to people that needed it. So what I really want people to think is that I'm someone who cared. I'm someone that listened. I'm someone who didn't tell them what to do, but guided them to find out what they could do. And that's what life is for me. And I think that honors my both of my parents who have passed. So that's there too. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Yes. All right. Yeah. Well, that is wise words from an uncaged leader, Huff. So, y'all, please reach out to Huff and yeah, find him at Unity North Atlanta if you're in this area.
Yeah,
And definitely connect with him and follow the Camino trip. We'll be following that on Facebook and good luck on your journey. See how many Caminos you'll have done by the last by your last days.
that's true. That's true. David is an extreme um, inspiration to me and to a lot of men. He also was in NBI. So,
Oh, nice. All right, y'all.
but
Well,
thank you very
thank
much. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. And definitely, all right, we'll see you later. I feel very inspired, Huff. So we'll take this in and let it be. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, Huff. Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
I know.